Hey guys, it's Kevin, and there's going to be another classic movie review, and this movie I'm going to be reviewing, I was definitely looking forward to watching this movie. I really just want to watch a fun comedy after the tragic events of Boys Don't Cry, after, crying and everything. I just wanted a fun movie, and I picked out this movie. This is actually one of my parents' favorite comedies, which they know how to pick good comedies, I have to say. They know how to pick classic comedies, and that movie is the 1992 courtroom comedy film classic, My Cousin Vinny. And yes, I do have this on DVD, which is how I watched it. And I definitely was looking forward to this film for a couple of reasons. One, I think the cast looked really good. I heard it's just a really fun movie. I wasn't initially planning on watching it, but I was on Watch Mojo and I found out that Marissa Tomei actually won an Oscar for it. And I'm like, wow, this movie actually won an Oscar for something. Is it really worth it? And after watching My Cousin Vinny, what did I think of it? Did all the Oscars and everything, did all the acclaim gets, is it really a classic? Fuck yes. This movie is absolutely hilarious. It's probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I absolutely loved My Cousin Vinny, and it is definitely a classic. But let's get into the plot of My Cousin Vinny, which honestly is hilarious. The plot is awesome, and it's just so funny. Basically, we have these two guys who are these two students at NYU. They are actually in Alabama. They're just driving through Alabama, Billy and Stan, and they actually are accidentally caught shoplifting. And after they leave the store, to their unbeknownst to them, the clerk is actually shot and killed, and basically they're arrested in connection to the murder. Now basically Stan thinks they're arrested because of the whole them shoplifting, but they're really arrested because they have actually been charged with possibly murdering the clerk, and they were a suspect. And basically, they need a lawyer to get them out of jail. So Billy enlists his cousin Vinny. But the problem is, Vinny has no prior experience to being a lawyer. Hasn't even passed a bar exam ever. He passed it 6 times. He hasn't even passed a bar exam. And he is not even from Alabama. He's actually from the city, so he's adapting to country life, and basically he has to do whatever he can to prove that he's a good lawyer, and while in the meantime his friend is saying this is not a good idea, and that he's not a good lawyer and everything, and that's basically a plot of My Cousin Vinny. And yes, it sounds hilarious, and it really is hilarious. That's one of the reasons why it is hilarious. And something I was definitely looking forward to is the plot. I mean, just the plot alone sounds ridiculous, just picturing someone like this as your lawyer. But let's get to the acting here, which honestly, the acting is what makes this movie. Honestly, that's what makes this movie. If the acting would not be as good, the movie would not be as good. Joe Pesci as Vinny was just perfect casting, honestly. Just picturing Joe Pesci, out of all people, as your lawyer, knowing the kind of roles that Joe Pesci has done. I've never really seen him do a more comedic role like this. I mean, I've seen him in many Martin Scorsese films, but seeing him in a more comedic role, he definitely did a very good job. I mean, Joe Pesci, out of all people. Just picture getting Joe Pesci as your lawyer. It's ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. I mean, Vinny is completely oblivious to anything the lawyer does. He doesn't have a suit. The judge pretty much hates him. And the funniest scenes, I have to say, are the scenes where they're trying to sleep at night and this train keeps going off because there's a train that's right near them. And just his reactions were priceless. And one of my favorite things about this movie, though, is that he does eventually try to become a lawyer. He does try to make an effort towards it. He's not like, oh, I'm done, I'm not going to try to be a lawyer. No, he does try to become a good lawyer, which is something I definitely like seeing, and I thought he did a very good job with that. Even though he's struggling, he does eventually become good at what he does, and he's not even a lawyer. He's an auto mechanic, and I think it's really funny that he does try to become a lawyer. However, Marissa Tomei in this movie steals the show as Lisa. She is so funny in this movie because everything that she wants talking about has nothing to do with the case. She wants to get married, she's his fiance and everything, and she actually won, as I said, an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She totally deserved it. She was hilarious in this movie. I would have never thought she would have won it, but she totally deserved it. She was so funny in this movie. Their dynamic overall is just hilarious to watch, and is by far the best part of this movie, and if their dynamic had not been as strong, I would not have liked the movie as much, but their dynamic, also, she really wants to help him. She wants to do whatever she can to help him with this case, and it's hilarious to see her try to help him, yet he's like, I really have nothing for you to do. It was really funny, and I thought they both did really great in the movie. Ralph Macchio is really good, and also Michael Whitfield. I thought he was definitely funnier than Ralph Macchio, because basically Michael Whitfield is trying to prove to him that that Vinny is not a good lawyer, even gets them a different lawyer at one point, and, Bill is just trying to convince him that he is a good lawyer, and I just like that storyline overall. That storyline was just as interesting as Vinny's and Lisa's, I have to say. And then Then there's Fred Gwynn as the judge, which sadly this was actually his last performance, but his interactions with Vinny are absolutely hilarious because he wants nothing to do with him. As I said, he does not like him whatsoever. He thinks he is a terrible person to be a judge, and it's hilarious to watch. Their dynamic was so funny, and I loved it. I really did. I thought their whole dynamic was great. So overall, the cast is great in this movie. Definitely some very funny scenes, and I think they were really good. The acting was definitely really good in this movie. The directing by Jonathan Lynn, definitely he had a very distinct tone in this movie. One of the things I do like is, I've told you guys this before, I do not like courtroom movies. He had fun with this. He didn't make this a serious drama, because this could have been a very serious drama. If this had been a serious drama, I would have been bored out of my mind. But because this was a fun movie, and because he had a fun tone and made a comedy, it just works so much better. And his distinct tone was great, and the way that he, did the scenes, I thought were very, very funny as well. There's some very quotable lines, and that's really due to the screenplay. The screenplay is great to this movie. I really had a lot of fun with the screenplay, definitely. I thought the screenplay overall was definitely very funny. There's so many things. You're gonna quote this movie after you watch. You're definitely gonna quote this movie a lot, and I'm surprised that this movie isn't quoted as much as it should, because there are some legitimately very quotable lines in this movie, particularly in the courtroom scenes. When Vinny has no idea what he's doing, there's some very quotable lines there, and I thought they were all very, very funny. I definitely really enjoyed that, and I thought that was really good. Cinematography of this movie was great. The cinematography is actually a big part of this movie because, as I said, they're in Alabama, so it needs to look like they're in the country, and some of the funniest scenes actually have to do with the cinematography, because as I said, there's a train that won't shut up, and you see the train outside. There's a hilarious scene where he has to try grits, and he hasn't even tried grits. He knows what grits are, but he doesn't, know what, he's never actually tried them, which is really funny. There's some hilarious, animals and everything. It definitely makes you never want to go to the country. I'll say that right now. If you guys have never been in a country, you're never going to want to go to the country after this movie. I never want to go to a country like this. I was in Alabama for, a summer, and it was hell. There was, loud thunderstorms every night. It's not good. So, I can see the struggle that they're going through, definitely. And I thought that it was a lot of fun to watch. Cinematography is part of what makes this movie really funny. And that's something I really like. It's very rare that your cinematography actually makes your movie funnier than it is, and this movie actually does do that, which is awesome. And also there's, of course, the hilarious scene where, probably one of the funniest scenes in the movie, honestly, is where Lisa gets his whole suit ready and everything, but then it falls into the mud, and he has to get a new suit. It's so many situations that they go through, and it's so entertaining to watch because of how great, the cinematography was. It's definitely something I loved. The editing was great as well. This movie is 2 hours long, but it flies by like that just because of how into it you are, and because of how fun it is. That's definitely something I love, was how fast it flew by, because it really flew by very quickly for me. There was no point where I'm like, okay, wrap it up, I'm not into this scene. No, every scene I was into, every scene I was having a lot of fun with, and I definitely really enjoyed that. One of the things I definitely, as I said, definitely did like about the movie is towards the end when Vinny actually did become a good lawyer. I thought those scenes were actually a lot of fun to watch, and they're not boring. The courtroom scenes are not overlong and boring. They're funny, they're really quick, they have very witty lines, and they don't seem like, this is the courtroom, this is the defendant, I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna tell you that. I hate movies like that. I hate courtroom movies like that. This movie's like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna make this fun, because because we're gonna have a lawyer that shouldn't be a lawyer, and eventually becomes a very good lawyer. But when he does become a lawyer, the movie doesn't slow down at all. It actually becomes it's still very fun, and I love that they did that. And there was actually some very good moments in this movie, some very shocking things in this movie. And he actually does a very good job when he becomes a lawyer, which I was very surprised happened. I was very happy that he actually became a very good lawyer. Also, the ending to this movie, hilarious. I love the way the movie ended. It was probably the perfect way for it to end, and I love that. And finally, the score to this movie is a lot of fun as well. It's a 90s movie, but it feels like an 80s movie because of how 80s the score is. Probably because it was the early 90s. That's probably why it felt very 80s. But definitely, this is a great movie. I just realized this movie actually came out on my mom's birthday, which could be another reason why she loves it so much. But overall, guys, I loved My Cousin Vinny. I thought it was a great movie. I honestly recommend you guys do watch it. It honestly is a comedy classic. I wish this movie more people would know about, because it honestly is a very fun movie, and there's really not much else you can say about it. It's a fun watch. It's something that I definitely recommend you guys watch. It's not like Romancing the Stone, where I have, nothing to say about it. I have a lot to say about this movie. In fact, I'd probably watch it again. It's probably going to become one of my favorite comedies. I highly recommend you guys see if you haven't. It's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Not for kids, not for the families, not for families. families. There was a bunch of, like, fuck, they say fuck is, like, every other word that comes out of their mouth, so basically, you'll definitely be quoting the lines a lot, which I think is great, and if you guys definitely want to see a very fun comedy, check out My Cousin Vinny. So that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this movie, you have seen it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of Game of Thrones. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.